Okay, we're going to go ahead now and start taking a look at some features of Kesav Ashuris, which is the script, the special script that the Torah scroll is written in. And we're going to examine the forms of the Hebrew letters and a little bit about their significance and the concepts that govern their form. In this introductory video, I'm going to lay out two ideas that we're going to see show up many times in the course of our discussion of the letters. And then in the next video, we're going to start off with the first letter of the Hebrew alphabet, the letter Aleph, and we're going to talk about its implications, how the form of the letter is derived, its implications on a mystical level, on a legal level, and we'll look at many different aspects of the meanings of the Hebrew letters. So the first idea to talk about is the idea of composite letters, that really almost all the letters of the Hebrew alphabet can be made from combinations of these 6 letters. Well, 2 or more of these 6 letters. These 6 fundamental letters are the Hebrew letter Dalet, Zayin, Kaf, Vav, Yud, and Nun. Now, as I said, you can make most Hebrew letters from combining these letters. For example, the Hebrew letter Aleph, which is the first letter of the Hebrew alphabet, is composed of 2 Yuds and 1 Vav. Let's take a look at an Aleph. So here is 1 Yud, and then you have the Vav that comes down diagonally and adjacent to the Yud. And then you have another Yud that is suspended from the Aleph, like that. It's suspended from the Vav in the middle of the Aleph. So again, the Hebrew letter Aleph is composed of a Yud here, and a Vav going down the middle. So that's just one example of the idea of composite letters. And we're going to see many of these with many of the letters in the Hebrew alphabet. And there are certain things that are significant about this when it comes to determining whether a letter is kosher or not kosher to be written in the Torah scroll. Okay, the other idea that I want to talk about is that of primordial form versus written form. Not all letters are thought about in the same way in which they are written. Many Hebrew letters have what's called an Iker Tzura, a fundamental or a primordial form of the letter. It's an abstract conceptual idea of what the letter looks like that's different than the way the letter is actually written in a Torah scroll. So I'll give you an example. The Hebrew letter Beis is normally written like this. All right? However, the fundamental form of the Iker Tzura of the Beis is like this. Okay? It's just sort of got a square back to it and doesn't have these little projections on top of the heel and the back. Now, while this conceptually is the basic form of the letter Beis, why do we write it differently? Why do we write it like this? Okay, the reason why is because there's another letter in the Hebrew alphabet which is very, very similar to the Iker Tzura of the Beis, and that's called the letter Kaf. The letter Kaf looks like this. All right? As you see, the letter Kaf differs from the fundamental form of the letter Beis in that it's rounded on the back, while the fundamental form of the Beis is square. So it's very easy when reading, if you have a Torah where the Beis are written like this, it's very easy to confuse these 2 letters. It's also very easy for a sofer, for the scribe, to make a mistake and either write a Beis like a Kaf or a Kaf like a Beis. So to ensure that the letter will be distinct from the Bays, because one of the laws of Sophros that we're going to see as we get into to learning this more is that each letter has to be completely distinct from every other letter. We seek to distinguish it by adding a heel here on the back to reinforce the squareness of the letter. And we add a little points here on the corners to sharpen them. Nevertheless, even though we add this heel and these points, the fundamental form of the letter is still easily distinguishable right here. You can still see the fundamental form of the Bays. Okay, another example of this has to do with the letter Dalet. The fundamental form of the letter Dalet, or the primordial form, the Ikar Tzura, looks like this. All right. Now there's another letter called Reish, makes the R sound, and it looks like this. Now, as you can see, these letters are very, very similar, and we have much of the same problem between a Bays and a Kaf, which is you have this little point here at the back on the fundamental form of the Dalet, whereas the back of a Reish is rounded. So again, because it's very easy to confuse these letters, and because it's also very easy for the Sofer to make a mistake and to have a Reish that looks like a Dalet or vice versa, the written form of the Dalet becomes like this. And all we've really done is taken the fundamental form, sharpened the corners a little, and added a heel to the back of the letter. Nevertheless, the fundamental form is still easily discernible within this embellished written form. There it is. So, this relationship between written form and fundamental form has very big ramifications in the halachic, the legal aspect of understanding the letters and what constitutes a valid letter for being written in the Torah. Because after all, if the form of a letter is ruined, then the entire scroll cannot be used in the synagogue until that letter is corrected. The idea of composite letters has a lot of meaning and relevance in Kabbalah and our mystical understanding of the meaning of the letters. And all of this we're going to talk about in the next several videos, in which we're going to discuss letter by letter the Hebrew alphabet and the forms of the letters. So check back here regularly and check at ctc-torah.org for updates on the writing of the Congregation Torah's Chaim Sefer Torah and for more information on this very topic.